Well, students, so today here we are going to start with a new topic, and that is about calculus. Calculus, as the word that you must have heard about, is a very advanced word of mathematics. That is what it is being presumed. The word calculus, students get scared. Probably you might have even heard your parents saying that this is calculus was one thing which I never understood in my lifetime. So there is a lot of fear and lot of given to this word calculus, which includes differentiation, integration, such words. Sometimes what happens, the name of the words really scare us. The calculus is a part of mathematics which is used to simplify certain equations and certain relations of physics. Right, here we are learning physics. We cannot learn physics without understanding the calculus part of that. Why, how, that we will try to understand, and I'll try to explain to you. Okay, here there are certain situations that arise in physics which cannot be solved by our normal relations or the equations that has been developed by the physicist, and then there comes a need that this kind of a situation has to be resolved, and how it has to be interpreted in mathematics, that needs to be sorted out, right? Like आता आपण ते जे vectors बघितलं, so vectors was also a similar part of mathematics which is used to solve certain situations of physics where direction was important. So that vectors was designed by mathematicians, by which entity of physics could be given a magnitude also and direction, and in the equations and in the calculation both of them could be taken in the calculation, and when you take both of them in the calculation, the results were different. So two different vectors of the same magnitudes at different angles would give different resultants. So that was one of the methods that we learned using vectors to solve certain problems of physics, and throughout the chapters that we are going to know, that we are going to study, we are going to use this mathematics of vectors to solve certain situations. Now there are also certain situations which are going to come in which we will again get stuck up to interpret that in terms of equation and to solve that in terms of equation, for which we are going to require this concept of calculus. Now for understanding this calculus part, right, there are two basic situations that I will describe to you, where you will realize that yes, these are the situations which cannot be described by the normal equations of physics. So we need to interpret that, we need to understand that in terms of some different method, and that is going to be calculus. That is what we are going to study about. And believe me, this calculus is not going to be difficult. It will take certain time as you keep going through problems and the applications of those problems. Slowly you will start understanding the concepts of calculus. Here I am teaching you calculus which is required for our physics for these 2 years. Calculus again will be taught to you by the maths professors, because there is a proper chapter of calculus in your 11th and in your 12th, both the standards, that is differentiation and integration, in which more in details and more complex problems of differentiation and integration will be taught to you. But here now I am going to teach you only enough of that calculus that is just required for our physics and to solve our problems of physics. Okay. Now there is a situation, as if you know, that if you have a balloon, right, normally a balloon would be is a spherically shaped balloon. So here this is a balloon whose air is being let out, right? The air is being let out from the opening, and so what happens, as the air starts coming out of the balloon, the size of the balloon will start reducing. The size of the balloon will start reducing. Now, within how much time will the balloon deflate? It will depend upon at what rate the air is going out. At what rate the air is going out. If the air is going out very fast, so within few seconds it will become flat. If the air is going very slowly, maybe it will take half an hour for a balloon to get deflated to a lower radius. Now here, when we talk about a sphere, so this is a sphere which is having a radius r, maybe r1, as the size reduces, it becomes R2, this becomes R3, this becomes R4, this becomes R5 and R6, and so on. It will go to the minimum radius. Okay. So here, as time passes by, the radius is going on shrinking. The radius is reducing at a particular rate. So if I am able to measure that rate, right, then I can predict and I can tell you at any given time what would be the radius of that particular sphere. If at time t equal to 0, I let that air out, and after 8 seconds the balloon is fully deflated, then at time t equal to 2 seconds, what could be the radius of that balloon, that I need to find out. If you ask me, sir, at 2 seconds what will be the radius, so I will not be able to explain to you, because I would not have measured that radius at that particular instant, and how so difficult. No, I cannot make time to freeze, measure the radius and then allow the time to go ahead. Okay, now you start reducing that balloon. It is not possible. So how do I come to know at 2 seconds what is going to be the radius of that balloon? So if I am able to understand the tendency, the rate at which the air, the volume is coming out, the rate at which the volume is coming out, then I know that if it is coming out with certain volume in certain time, then I can sort of predict what could be the radius after so much volume has been removed from the balloon, right? Because I know that the volume V is equal to 4 by 3 pi r cube. In this case it will be 4 by 3 pi r1 cube. In this is a V1, V2 would be 4 by 3 pi r2 cube in this condition, and V3 would be 4 by 3 pi r3 cube, r4 cube, r5 cube, r6 cube, and so on. So I know there is some relation between the volume and the radius of that particular balloon, and if the volume which is being removed out to the outside atmosphere, it is at some, that is a change of volume upon a certain time duration. That means from V1 to V2, that is V2 minus V1 is taking time T2 minus T1. So here it was time T1 and this was time T2. If I subtract these two time, so what am I getting, right? So that is the difference of volume. No? This was V2 and this was V1. If I subtract this volume, that means this is the volume which had gone to the outside atmosphere. So this is the volume which has been released from that balloon in how much time? That is T2 minus T1. If T1 is 0, then whatever time is that, at that particular time I know that the volume is going to be so much. Okay, so if I am able to calculate that rate, so what I will do as a physicist, I will start this at time t equal to 0. After certain time I will just hold the balloon and stop that releasing of that gas, and I will watch the time t. Suppose it is 4 seconds. Now the remaining volume which is there, that I will measure. I knew initial volume, from that volume I will subtract, so I will know the change of volume. I know the change of time, so I get the rate at which the volume is coming out. So once I get to know the rate, then you ask me for any given time, I will tell you what will be the volume present in that. So once I get to know the relation between for that volume with respect to time t, then I will be able to understand the way how the gas is going out, in how much volume, in how much time. If that pattern, if I am able to follow, from that pattern I will be able to predict at any given time what should be the volume of that particular balloon and that particular time. Do you get me? But how do I do this? Right? I have got this ratio, but from this ratio at a given time, how do I do this? That is explained once we understand differentiation. Are you getting the situation? For which situation I am going to apply this knowledge of differentiation. Now let us take another example. Let us assume that there is Now this is not exactly for I would say for differentiation, but it is something called as limits. Limits, differentiation, integration, these three parts are the tools of calculus, right? Limits, differentiation and integration. What I explained to you was the rate at which the balloon was going on. So it is a tendency of the change, and that is that study of that pattern is called differentiation. Okay. Now limits. Suppose this is a road and this is a divider over here. There is a small insect over here that has to cross on the other side of the road. Now this insect is being programmed, or it may be a small robot, it's a very tiny object, that it can always cross half the remaining distance. What is the rule? It can cross only half the remaining distance. So the first jump it is going to take will be from this point to this point, because this is half the distance. Next, it will go from here to this point, half the distance. Now this is the remaining distance, it will jump half the distance, then half the distance, then half the distance, then half the distance. Now it is just trying to find, because distance is an infinite points, there will always be infinite points, so lifelong he will be crossing. Now here you have to understand that mathematically what has happened in this case, mathematically he is never going to cross the road all his life. He will always be almost near, but he can jump only to half the distance. So it will keep going on. But physically, how can we define that he has crossed the road? Okay, till when he was here, I would say he has not crossed. Till he was here, he has not crossed here. Now he has almost reached that. For all practical purpose, he has followed. So the physics person says that he has crossed the road. Why you are going to go in details and try to mathematically prove that he is never going to cross the road? So when this situation comes, so there is a conflict between the physics and the mathematics. The physics says, see, for all practical purpose, as I know, he has crossed the road, the car can go and the traffic can flow, and that insect is not going to get killed. But mathematicians say, sorry, sir, he has not crossed. So this is the situation where it can be solved using calculus. So it is said that it is a limit which tends towards crossing the road, but it has not crossed the road. This is the concept of limits. What I explained to you sometime back was the concept of differentiation, that the rate at which the gas is moving out, that at the same rate there is some relation between the volume and the radius will also change correspondingly depending upon the relation. It will also change, and that change can be predicted if I am able to know the relation between the volume and the time t. Is that clear? Yeah. So the description of this relation between object and the relation about one particular part which is changing, which is dependent on some particular entity, that relation is called as expressed in the form of integration or differentiation, right? Now in order to more deeply understand the concept of differentiation, we have to take up an example of speed. Actually differentiation can be used in so many cases, like for that, as I told you, like it's the release of that volume of that gas, or maybe some other situation. But more prominently we will be using differentiation and integration in our velocity, acceleration, force, work, energy, right, in this process of kinematics. So it makes more sense to understand this concept of differentiation using speed, acceleration and velocity example. As I have said, speed, velocity and acceleration is just one example where calculus can be applied, but calculus is a wide topic, so which can be applied to so many other entities, like it could be thermodynamics, it could be in current electricity, it could be in rotational motion, it could be in so many other applications it can be used. But for better understanding, the example of distance, velocity and acceleration is more appropriate to understand how the integration and differentiation can be applied. Okay, so let us start understanding these concepts. So here we have a number line, we have your x and y axis. So we know that this is a typically x axis, this is a typical y axis. So you know this is minus x and this is minus y. So we are not going to study about this minus x and minus y, you know they are over there. Now here, as you know that this number line can be used to represent so many entities on the x and y. It is used for economics also, it is used for physics, it can be used to show the graph of certain progress of certain things. You can use x and y, it's in two coordinates, it's a relation between the two coordinates, right? Now this relation between the two coordinates, and when you plot a particular behavior, it is called as a graph. When there is some relation between x and y and that relation is plotted in terms of point, then you get a graph. Now that graph which you get, depending upon the shape of the graph, every graph will have a different relationship. That is one thing which you should really understand, a very important thing. For example, we have a straight line, the basic graph, that is a straight line. In fact, the basic graph is just a dot, that is just a coordinate of x and y. What is the basic graph? A dot. A point is the first graph. What is the next graph? A line. A straight line is a graph. Do you know the relation or equation of a straight line? The equation of a straight line is given as y equal to mx plus c. Is given as y equal to mx plus c. Now what is y? Y is the variable or the points on the y axis. X is the points on the x axis, right? And what is c? C is called as y intercept. C is called as y intercept, means it is the point where this graph, I am using this word so that you should learn that whatever I am plotting on this xy is always a graph, right? It may look or it may be a straight line. The name given to this graph is a straight line. Like this, we can have infinite graphs that can be plotted on an x and y coordinate, out of which certain graphs have been given a name. But all graphs, what do they have in common? That they represent a relation between x and y. For any given value of x, what will be the value of y? That is the job of a graph. So for this equation, whatever value of x I put into this, I will get the value of y, provided I know m and c. What is c? C is the point where this graph intercepts the y-axis. In this particular case, the graph intercepting at 0. So this equation of this line should be given as y equal to just mx, because c is 0. It is intercepting at 0. Had this been a different type of a line, like this, and this point is suppose 3, right? Now you can see here coming in, what was m? M is called as the slope of line. M is called as slope of your line. If m is the slope of the line, so how is this two lines different? So let us say this is line 1 and this is line 2. This is m, let us say this is m1, the slope is m2. Both these lines are having two different slopes. What is the difference? These two lines are having two different slopes. Okay. Here the y-intercept is 3. Here what is the difference? This is having a y-intercept that is equal to 3. So the equation of this line would be written as y equal to m2x plus 3. So 3 is the point where the line meets in the x-axis. Now you might ask, sir, why only x-axis, sorry, y-axis? Because that is how the equation of the line is defined, right? As I've said, what is the basic graph? Just a dot is a basic graph. That is also a graph because it gives a relation between x and y. Okay. Now line is the next graph, and this line itself also lot of things are represented by this line. We will just come to that, right? How and what does the line represents when this x and y is replaced by some other entities. Like for in x we can use this to represent time, and y could be used to represent distance. Then what does the slope of line means? That everything that we are going to go. But before that, try to understand a graph is a plotting of x and y. Whatever shape you get, you can keep getting infinite shapes, and whatever shape you get, there are certain shapes which are named. Like this shape of this graph is being named as line. Then like this, there are so many different graphs. There is also one more graph which looks like this. Do you recognize this graph? This graph is called as a circle. This is a graph which is called as a circle. Up till now you have heard a lot of things about circle. You know what is the area, you know what is the perimeter of the circle. I am not going to revise all these things because that you have been doing from your 8th standard, right? But here I am going to consider this circle as a graph. So if this is a graph, there must be some relation between x and y. There must be some relation between x and y, only then a graph is being plotted. This relation of this circle is given as x square plus y square equal to a square. A is some constant and it is nothing but the radius of the circle is a. So here what do we get is x square plus y square is equal to a square, where this is also a relation of x and y. Right? This can be written as like how this is written in terms of x and y. This also I can write it as y square equal to a square minus x square, or y is equal to under root of a square minus x square. So this is the equation of a circle. This is the equation of a line. So what does this equation gives? Is a relation between x coordinate and the y coordinate. Now try to understand any relation between x and y. It is termed in mathematics that y is a function of x. So y is dependent on x. In what way? By this relation or by this relation. There is one more important graph that we are going to learn, and that is a graph of parabola. Now this is a graph which is given as a parabola graph, right? The equation of this graph is given as y equal to ax square. Y equal to ax square is the standard equation of this graph. This is also a function of x. Y equal to ax square, y equal to m2x plus 3, y equal to under root of a square minus x square. What do we see in all these things? That this is a relation of y with respect to x. It has just two sides of the coordinates of the coordinate axis that you have been studying up till now. What do we say? That while saying, we say that y is a function of x. Y is a function of x. And how it can be written? It can be written as, say for a straight line, it will be written as y equal to mx plus c, or you can write it as it's a function of x equal to mx plus c. What is this? Y is a function of x. These are the two methods how this particular equations can be represented. Similarly, this can be written as fx is equal to under root of a square minus a square. It says that in this equation, what does it says? In this equation, whatever you see here and whatever is given in this bracket here, this is the variable. X is a variable and any other letters is a constant. That is the meaning of function of x. So this could be any complex equation in which when I am writing in this bracket x, I am trying to tell you that this is a function in which x is a variable, all others are a constant. If there is a function f, what does this indicate? Which is the variable in this? Don't misunderstand that x means a variable, right? It is just some letters that we are representing from A to Z. Okay, out of this 26, x is being repeatedly used. So we always have an understanding that x means it is a variable. But no, here what is this function telling? The function is telling in this equation t is the variable and x is the constant. X is some constant. So x is not a variable, t is a variable. So that is why it is said this is a function of time t. But t could be time or something else. But what it is saying is that whatever is given in the bracket, it says this is something which is going to vary. T is going to vary, x is not going to vary as time goes by. That is mean it is a constant, right? If it is given in this particular way, x comma t equal to 3x square plus 2t, now it says that both of them are variables. It says both of them are variable. As time to t goes by, even x is varying in its own way, t is completing its own way. A complex function, right? Anyway, we are not learning mathematics over here. I am just introducing you to the concepts. So when you try to read books, whenever the word function comes, sometimes you get scared and then you don't read further. You know, you feel no, I have not understood what this function and everything is. It's nothing. It's a relation of y and x. So it is just being a communication tool to tell you that which are the variables in the given equation. So here it says it is x, here it says it is x and t both, right? So that's just the communication of the word function. So here as you see that these are the different graphs that we have been exposed to: a line, a dot, a parabola, a circle, and there is also one more graph which is going to be a hyperbola. A hyperbola is something of this size, of this type. This graph is an hyperbola. What is the equation of a hyperbola? Y equal to 1 upon x, or say y equal to a upon x, x is some constant. This is the relation of a hyperbola. So you should be knowing all this equation. Please make a note of all these equations in your notebooks, and if you want, I will give you the names of this. This is called as circle, this is called as a line, this is called as a hyperbola, and the green is called as a parabola, right? So these are those basic, you have total complete chapters based on these graphs and curves, right, in mathematics. So you are going to learn more in details about that. I am just introducing you this basic concept because we are going to use all these curves in our physics. It's very simple, it's very good. Just concentrate, you hear, listen. If you have still any doubt, you can always give me on your WhatsApp, and maybe I can explain to you more personally if you are not understood this concept. But I think there is nothing difficult in this. As you can see, I have just represented and explained to you the equations of graphs which we are going to use, and the meaning of these values of m and c. C is a y-intercept, m is the slope of that line, how much steep the slope is, right? This is having slope m1, this is having slope m2. Now in this is a very steep slope and this is a zero slope. So when the line is parallel to x-axis, m will be 0. When the line is perpendicular to the x-axis, m is infinite. The slope is infinite, right? So this is the understanding of physics and mathematics, and physics. It's the relation that you should understand. Mathematics is studied separately, right? Physics also we would like to study separately, but we have to use that mathematics to apply to physics to get the result. Otherwise, mathematics has got no meaning. right? So it is there to solve situations of physics that arises when the scientists are working on certain data, certain pattern, right? So the tools of mathematics help them to solve and get to that particular solution, right? So please take a note of these graphs. These are very important. You can draw it differently on different graphs. Though maybe I might have drawn it in just in one particular graph, you can draw this in different pages as different graphs, and you can name that, and you can understand that what is the meaning of a function of a variable x. So this is just a 2D graphs, right? Well, now that we have understood the basic equation of a straight line, so out of those 4 graphs that we have discussed in the last session, we have now just picking up just one graph, and that is the graph that is line. So I have redrawn this graph, okay? So it has got some slope. Let that slope be equal to m. Let that slope be equal to m. It is passing through the origin. So for this equation of this line, c is going to be 0. That means the y-intercept of this line is 0. Now we have to consider here 2 things. There is no x and there is no y written over here. I am trying to use the x-axis to represent time t, which is in seconds. This time t is in seconds, and this distance s is in meters. The unit of this is in meters. As I have said, a number line is to be used for an entity of physics. X and y is not the owner of a number line. It can be replaced to present different entities. So here I am using x to represent time and y to represent distance. So now when I am giving a slope of a line, what does this slope describe? Just look at the study of this. It says that at time t equal to 0, the particle was at this particular position. The particle was at this particular position. At time t equal to say t1, at time t equal to t1, what was the position of the particle? See, just because we have a graph, I can predict and I can tell you at time t1 second what was the distance traveled by the person. So for that, what I will do, I will draw a vertical line till it intersects this graph, and from here I will get the coordinate, that is s1. So I will say at time t1 it has traveled this distance and it has come to s2. What happened at time t2? At time t2 it had traveled a distance it had come to this distance s2, right? It has traveled and it had come to this distance a2. So this was O, this is A, and it has reached the point B. So at time t equal to 0, it was at a distance s1. At time t equal to 0, it was at a 0 distance. It was at the origin. At time t1, it was at s1. At time t2, it was at s2. Right? So how quickly a person has gone, that depends upon the velocity. How much time did it take to go from here to here? Time t1. How much time did it take to go from here to here? Time t2. So I know that velocity equal to distance upon time. Velocity equal to distance upon time. So from 0 to s1, right? 0 to s1, or even if I take, what is the time taken to travel from s1 to s2? It will be t2 minus t1. So the time taken here, you can say that it is the distance. Suppose for s1 it will be s1 upon t1. That is the velocity. Okay. Now s1 upon t1, what have we done? We have actually found the slope of a line. Here let me tell you, the slope of a line is given by an equation that is y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. The equation of a slope of a line is always given as m equal to y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1. This is a equation of a slope of a line. Slope of a line is given by this relation, right? So from here, if I take the points A and B, if I take points A to B, from traveling from A to B, what is the distance he has traveled? He has traveled S2 minus S1. How much time he has taken? That is T2 minus T1. So the time taken from A to B is this T2 minus T1 is the time taken from to go from here to here, that is A to B, that is S1 to S2. So from A to B, this is the distance upon time, means what am I getting over here? I am getting the velocity of the body. S2, that is distance traveled upon time t, means what? The velocity at which it has traveled. Incidentally, S2 is what? Y2 minus y1. T2 is what? X2 minus x1. So it is also being represented by the slope of the line. It is also represented by the slope of the line, that is equal to slope of line, which is equal to m. So S2 minus S1 upon T2 minus T1 is nothing but slope of a line, right? And what does the slope of a line indicate? The velocity of the particle. It indicates the velocity of the particle. As you see, between 0 to A and A to B, the slope is the same. The slope is the same. So what do we infer from this? The velocity is also same. If slope is same, which means the velocity is also same, right? This is an example of a body moving with a constant velocity. So from whether he goes from A to B or B to C, whichever he goes, if the line is a straight line, it indicates that he is going with a constant velocity. The velocity is constant. It is not changing with respect to time t, right? So this is the interpretation of velocity and the meaning of that in the graph, correct? So in the ground, I have marked a point that was 0, okay, and at that point he is going with the velocity which is what? S2 minus S1 upon T2 minus T1. So there is some slope of that line. Either I measure the slope to get the velocity, or I should know these coordinates. From there I can find the velocity of the particle. So this is what you have to understand the graphs and what is the meaning of the graphs. There are 2-3 things I will explain in this graph which will be more clear to you. If I draw a line in this particular way, having the same slope, but it has got a y-intercept at S1. Slope is same, but it intercepts at S1. How is the interpretation of this graph? What does this graph interpret? Right? So this graph interprets that since the slope is same, the velocity is same. So the body is moving with the same velocity. What does this S1, that is the y-intercept, interprets? That he was at time t equal to 0, he was already at a distance S1 from the origin. And from there he has started to move with some velocity which is equal to m. Here velocity of the person is equal to the slope of this line. This is the relation of mathematics and physics. Mathematics shows these graphs and the physics shows actually what is happening in the ground, right? So this relation, sometimes it is difficult. If you try to imagine, you may not get it correct. So this slope of line does not mean that he is moving in an angle. Does not mean he is moving in an angle. On the ground, if you see from an aerial ground, and it is having, say suppose, a coordinate, so he is moving in a straight line with some velocity v, right? This slope is indicating the velocity, not the direction in which he is moving. It does not indicate. Many of times I have asked the student, say this was north and this is your east, this is your west, and this is your south. Correct? Now, if this is the slope of the person, where will that, in which direction is the person moving? Does not, here I am not giving the direction, this graph is not giving the direction of the person. If this was distance and distance, then because both of them are distance and distance, then this slope would give me the direction of that person. But this is distance and this is time. He is moving in some direction away from the origin. From this, take this origin, either he is moving over here, he is moving here, he is moving over here, he is moving over here. This graph does not describe where, in which direction he is moving. This graph only says one thing, that at time t equal to 0, it was at that origin, and after certain time t1, he has reached a distance s1 from the origin. It could be east side, it could be north, northeast, here, any direction. Because this graph here is not representing the direction of the motion, it is representing the velocity at which it is going. These are the confusing things that you should be able to understand and try to apply to that particular graph. Okay, so he is not moving in this direction. Direction here I have never told, that there is no mention whether he is moving towards north or east or west or south or southeast, west, because that was not important to me. What was important to me was to understand that at time t equal to 0, he was at the origin, and after certain time t, he started to move away from that origin, whichever direction, but with a velocity which was equal to the slope of this line. What did this line indicate? That at time t equal to 0, he was already at the distance s1 from the origin, and from that point he started moving with some velocity. Again, the direction of his movement is not declared or mentioned in this particular graph. Is that clear? Now, let me draw another graph. This particular graph. So this graph, it is intercepting at S2. It also has a slope, but now the slope is minus m. The slope is same, but it is a reverse of this. This is always called as a positive slope, and this will be a negative slope, right? Now in this particular negative slope, the slope is minus. So what does this graph indicate to the motion of this body? It becomes now complex to understand. Now the slope means what? Right? So this slope means you have to talk to yourself to understand this. When, just look at this slope, when time t was equal to 0, where was he? He was already at a distance of s2 when I started my clock. And as time went by, what happened? See, he is coming, since the graph is in this direction, which means what? Your s2, s1, and at this particular time, the distance traveled is 0. That means he started from that and he is coming towards me with the velocity m. That velocity m could be maybe 40 kilometers per hour, right? So in all these three cases, the speed was 40 kilometers per hour. But in the first case, from the origin, he was going with 40 kilometers of meter per hour away from me. In this case, he was already at a distance of maybe 1.5 kilometer. From that, he started going away from the origin at 40 kilometers per hour. That is the meaning of the second graph. And third, he was already at a distance of maybe 3 kilometers, and at 40 kilometers per hour he is coming towards me from whichever direction. He may be coming from east, north, northwest. This is not at all explained in this graph. Once again, I am trying to understand. Is that clear? So this is the presentations of the meaning of this particular graph. I want you to note down all these graphs and the meaning of this, like what I have explained to you. This is my first graph, this is my second graph, and this is my third graph. Please make a note of all these three graphs and what do they mean. As I've told you, I explained to you. Please write it in your words. Want to write it in Marathi, write in Marathi, want to English, Hindi, whichever language you have. Just explain the importance of this three graph, what it means on this. And in my physics lecture, you are going to sit with a colored set of pens, not sketch pens. Ball pens, you will get a lot of ball pens with different colors, green, black, blue, right? Get them. because it is very important to identify various different dimensions, and your notebook should have a colored diagram in physics of graphs when I will be explaining to you, right? This is what I am explaining is just a simple basics. Slowly we are going to go to the complexities of that, right? So please make a note of this and please write down the importance of these three graphs. One more thing, yeah, before we do that, there is one more graph which I would like you to interpret, and it is this graph. Let us tell this as this is my fourth graph. That is a straight line from S2. What does this graph indicate? This indicates, right, as time goes by, is the distance from the origin changing? No, it is S only. Which means what? As time goes by, he is at that distance of 1.5 kilometers, he is there itself. So this is the graph of an object which is stationary, having no velocity. He is just standing there. Because as you see, at time t equal to t1, distance is s1. Time t equal to t2, distance is still s1. What does this mean? It means that that person is not moving, which means that he is stationary, he stands still at the distance s1 from the origin. Is that true? Fine. So please make a note of all these 4 graphs before we go ahead with our next topic.